Hello everybody and welcome back. Today we'll start with our fourth section, which is common processes and influences. Last time we finished covering our third section, which was about teaching approaches for language learning, and this time we'll talk about like influences and processes that happens or occurs when we are like learning our second language, and they may occur in our first language as well, such as in this video, overgeneralization and markedness. But we'll start with our quiz as always, which is about collective feedback and common issues in classrooms. So if you remember, in last video, there was like a slide we talked about the different types of feedback. So I provided you with the definition of each of them. So you need to provide me with the term for each definition. So when the instructor asks students to complete a sentence, what type of feedback is that? The instructor is providing a correct form, pointing out an utterance is incorrect without providing the correction, and finally the instructor indicates the student's utterance has not been understood. So these are the four definitions, and you need to provide or write the correct term for these definitions in the comment section. Then let's start. We have overgeneralization. We talked about this term before in relation to first language acquisition. This time we'll talk about it in relation to second language learning. So we have like another name for it, which is overregularization. So another name for overgeneralization is overregularization. What do you mean by it? It's the learner's tendency to over-apply rules of the target language where they are not warranted or not applicable. Like the most famous example for that thing, which is overgeneralization, is over-applying the ed past tense in English, such as I eated instead of I ate. So that's an example of overgeneralization. So overgeneralization have many indications or indicates things in terms of language acquisition or second language acquisition. So first of all, learners have internalized certain rules and are applying them when they are inappropriate. Again, we're talking here about universal grammar and like the internal set of rules in every learner. So overgeneralization indicates that there are internalized certain rules. Also, learners are not merely imitating the input to which they are exposed. Like we said before, behaviors say that like learners just imitate what the input that they are exposed to. But overgeneralization said the opposite, because like terms like eated, of course, most likely they are not in the input or in the environment, but coming up with these forms indicate that there are learners do not just imitate. Also, not all errors occur because of the L1 or like interference. We said before, like interference is not the only source of error, and overgeneralization support that study. And finally, learners use the knowledge they are acquiring about the target language in their attempts to further develop their interlanguage. We talked about developmental errors. So, like these are the errors that learners make like in their way to master the language. And overgeneralization is one of these errors like learners make in attempt to further develop their interlanguage. We said that interlanguage is learner's language. That's all about overgeneralization. Then we have markedness. Markedness is a new term. This is the first time we're going to talk about. So markedness is the notion that certain features are more natural, frequent, or basic than others across languages, or unmarked. So the natural, frequent, basic features are unmarked features, while others or less so, like less natural, less frequent, or less basic, are marked. So an example of unmarked features are voiceless sounds such as p, t, and k. And like on the other hand, the marked feature is the voiced sounds, which is b, d, and g. So the voiceless sounds are unmarked, so they are more natural, and the voiced sounds are considered marked, so they are less natural or frequent across languages. So we have a hypothesis which is called Markedness differential hypothesis, or MDH. So this hypothesis proposes that in general, if a given language contains a marked structure, it is likely to contain the unmarked equivalent as well. So if a language contains the marked structure, which is the least frequent one, as the voiced sounds, it will most likely contain the unmarked equivalent as well, which is the natural one and the frequent one, such as voiceless sounds. So in this view, the areas of difficulty that language learner will have can be predicted based on a systematic comparison of the grammar of the native language, the target language, and markedness relations. So this review says that to predict the areas of difficulty for language learners, the comparison is made about three bases, which are the grammars of native language, the grammars of target language, and markedness relations. So let's talk about the basis of comparison. First, we have areas of the target language that are more marked, less common or complex, then the learner's native language will be harder to learn. We'll talk about examples of these points after this slide. So when there is a marked feature or a feature that are more marked in the target language than the native language, it will be hard to learn. And areas of the target language that are more marked than others within the same language will also be harder for the learner. So forget about the native language. The target language have different features. Features that are more marked than the others will be harder to learn. And finally, areas that are not more marked than the native language will not be as difficult for the learner. So if there's a feature in the in the target language that is not more marked than the native language, it will not be difficult for the learner to learn. Let's see the examples. So the sound P in English is considered marked for Arabic speakers because it doesn't exist in their L1, so it will be difficult for them. So because the P sound is not in Arabic language, we considered it mark when we learn English. So it will be difficult to acquire because it's more marked than it is in English. Then the dual form, which is al-musanna in Arabic, is more marked than the plural form because it is less common in other languages. So most languages have the plural form in it, but the dual form is less common or less frequent across the languages. So when an English or any other language speaker tries to learn Arabic, the dual form will be more difficult for him because it's more marked. So the dual form is more marked than the plural form in the same language, which is Arabic. And both Arabic and English have a strong K sound. Since it is not more marked in either of the languages, it will be easy to pronounce. So English has the K sound as in cat, and Arabic has the K sound as in kataba. So because both languages have the same sound, it is not more marked in either of the languages. So it's the same. It will be easy to pronounce or to learn this sound for both speakers, from Arabic to learn English or English to learn Arabic. So that's all about overgeneralization and markedness. Thank you for watching and see you again in our next video.